Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. We've got a bit of a treat for you today. It's new ship time. Dear Mr. Frodo here is taking a shot at one of the new American destroyers, the Tier 7 USS Hughes. Now, one of the things that sets these new American destroyers apart from the existing American destroyers is its ammunition selection. These things don't get armor-piercing shells. You've got high explosive and semi-armor piercing, and honestly, for a destroyer I think that's a much more practical ammunition choice. You might notice something funny going on with the smokescreen consumable as well. It doesn't have any charges. It's because it doesn't. Instead, it kind of works like a crawling smoke generator, except you control when it starts and stops by pressing the T key. It's got a minimum 20-second action time, but beyond that, if you've had enough and you don't need the smoke anymore, press T, and it goes on cooldown, rather than expending a charge. So that's cool. Here, however, is where I kind of have to take a bit of an issue with the way Wargaming describes this new line of American destroyers, because, and I'm going to quote directly from their development blog here, compared to the current branch of American destroyers, ships of this line will have improved main battery guns with a good rate of fire combined with a high damage per minute. So clearly the complete opposite of the existing American destroyer line, which are known for having good rates of fire and high damage per minute. And then it goes on. This comes at the expense of worse concealment and a smaller number of torpedo tubes, which is of course why the Hughes here has 200 metre better concealment than the Sims and exactly the same number and type of torpedo launchers. To be completely fair to Wargaming, you're not really supposed to be comparing the Hughes, even though it is a Sims class destroyer. At Tier 7, you're not supposed to be comparing it to the USS Sims, which is a premium Tier 7 destroyer. You're meant to be comparing it to the Mayhan, which is the Tech Tree Tier 7 American destroyer. And yeah, the Mayhan is kind of weak sauce in the gun department. Problem is the Mayhan's also kind of weak sauce in the, well, everything else department, so it's just generally kind of weak sauce all around. And it's only really at Tier 8 and above where the real flavour of this new destroyer line, I mean, yeah, even though they all have access to the semi-armour piercing and the new smoke consumable, but at Tier 8 and above these destroyers swap out the traditional 5-inch or 127mm guns for 5.4-inch or 137mm guns, while retaining that good rate of fire, hence the higher than average damage per minute. Down here at Tier 7, however, I mean, this is basically the USS Sims, just with semi-armour piercing instead of armour-piercing shells, and the new smoke generator consumable. I do just find it amusing that they describe this line as having improved damage per minute and rate of fire on the guns, compensated for by worse concealment and fewer torpedoes, and then the first thing we see is exactly the same number of torpedoes, better concealment, and exactly the same guns, with the exception of the ammunition choice. And while I admit this is only really true when you compare these new destroyers to the Sims rather than the Tech Tree US Navy destroyers, I still can't help but feel that this isn't the first time Wargaming have talked the talk without being able to walk the walk, is it? And when they introduced the British light tanks in A World of Tanks, and they described them as light tanks with battleship guns. Now, clearly nobody was talking about 15 or 16-inch guns on a tank, because, I mean, that would just be ridiculous. But at the same time, we're talking about tanks that, at the most, had 105mm guns. So, no bigger than the guns on the light tanks of several other nations, except just with a much slower reload. So kind of shit, really. Yeah, kind of shit. So on the one hand, battleship caliber guns, my fat arse, but on the other hand, you could absolutely make the case that, well, actually, Jingles, a lot of battleships did have 105mm secondaries. Oh, so you're going to pull the old actually Jingles on me, are you? Okay, fair enough. So just like battleship secondaries, except with a reload that's 3 or 4 times slower. yeah, I can play that game too. Anyway, moving on. Well, just in case you hadn't noticed, well, actually, a couple of things. First, this is an arms race battle, hence the various different buffs that keep popping up. And secondly, This matchmaking is absolute dog shit for a tier 7 destroyer. For a start, it's a tier 9 battle, and while there are no radar cruisers, there is a carrier in play. And the Yorktown on the enemy team appears to have a raging hard-on for destroyers. Which is great news for the enemy team, but it's not great news if you're one of the destroyers. It's particularly bad news if you were the friendly Akazuki, because as well as having the honour of being the first ship sunk, he was actually sunk by the enemy carrier's torpedoes. And now it's dear Mr. Frodo's turn. I'm sorry, I'm just psychologically incapable of saying that name in anything other than a Somerset accent. You can blame Sean Astin. So, arms race battle. Oh, and he's spotted again. That has to be that Shiratsuyu again, doesn't it? Which comfortably outspots him. I mean, the Shiratsuyu is a Japanese destroyer. It comfortably outspots most things, but it's definitely going to outspot a Sims clone. Alright. You see, this is where the semi-armor piercing really does shine. I mean, high explosive is always good in destroyer versus destroyer gunfights, but the semi-armor piercing is deadly. Because unlike the semi-armor piercing that you get on things like heavy cruisers and Italian battleships, this destroyer 5-inch caliber semi-armor piercing doesn't seem to have any kind of damage cap. It just kicks ass. This Shiratsuyu though, on less than 2,000 hit points, and he is deliberately choosing to stay involved in a gunfight with an American destroyer. And not any old American destroyers. It's one of the new ones with the semi-armor piercing shells. I mean, god damn it. All he had to do was stop shooting. Instead, he's had to waste charge of his smoke generator. Oh, that Lexington's coming back. Anti-aircraft guns off. Hope he doesn't see us.
I need intelligence.
Might be okay. Yeah, oh, then again, maybe not. He's clearly looking for him. I mean, like I said, the Yorktown has a raging hard-on for destroyers. And he spotted him, so, yeah, fine. AA guns back on. He gets lucky this time, though. The Yorktown doesn't appear to be interested. He's heading south after other targets. And with that island in the way, during that brief moment of visibility, he's perfectly safe from getting shot at or having any torpedoes launched at him by that pesky Shiratsuyu. Although the Shiratsuyu is not the enemy destroyer that he's focused on at the moment. That honour goes to the enemy schooner. Or, you know, every time I mention that thing's name in a video, I forget how to pronounce it, and every time all the Scandinavians in the comments section remind me, oh shit, damn son.
Problem solved, sir.
Alright. Well, there's his first kill. That was quick. Yeah, these things really are very, very good against enemy destroyers, especially if that kind of range, and when they're sailing in a straight line. Well, anyway, something important's about to happen. Because arms race battles tend to just be a sort of free-for-all, certainly for the first 8 minutes or so, because there are no cap circles. Until the 12-minute point, when this happens, the key area has just appeared, which is a fancy way of saying the one cap circle. Now it appears in the middle of the map, and it's absolutely huge. Oh, hello. I believe there may be an enemy destroyer on the other side of that island. Oh crap, the Yorktown's back. Right, well, AA guns back up. The good news, although it's not good news for the Bion, is that the Yorktown was actually attacking him. He only spotted dear Mr. Frodo by accident. But yes, this key area, or the cap circle, in an arms race battle, you can quite clearly see it on the minimap. It starts off huge, but it gets smaller as the battle goes on, forcing the two teams into closer and closer quarters combat with each other if they want to take or retain control of this key area. And you do want to do that, because unlike regular cap circles, which are always important, but where control of them rewards your team with 3 or 4 points every 3 or 4 seconds, control of the key area in an arms race battle gives your team 10 points per second. So you'll win very quickly if you can take that key area. And knocking out the enemy destroyers will definitely help you. Whoa, okay. Will definitely help you do that. That's kill number 2, with the Lahadi flushed out by the Bayard and finished off by dear Mr. Frodo. He's actually doubling down here, because he's not just capturing the key area, he's also waiting for a buff. There are 3 friendlies inside this key area, which means unless the enemy team get a reset off in the next 15 seconds, they're going to lose it. And they do. Probably hitting the battleship down there to the southwest. Although it looks like the friendly Azuma, who is also in the key... Yeah, that's the Yorktown, going for a reset. So that's a bit of a bummer. Although the Azuma didn't really have much capture progress because he's only just entered the circle. The lion's share of the capture progress is held by dear Mr. Frodo here, who has remained unspotted the entire time he's been in this cap circle. You can see he's thinking about it. Got some shots here, but do I really want to get spotted? Who's gonna spot me if I take the shot? Because where's the Shiratsu?
Get back.
Yeah, you really need to get out of this cap circle because all you're doing is attracting fire. So he's got his head on a swivel. I mean, he's primarily looking out for the Yorktown's aircraft here because they're the ones with the best chance of spotting him. The Yorktown did kind of drop the ball by going for the Azuma rather than trying to spot him, which means one of the Yorktown's teammates has to step up and take the slack. A couple of torpedo hits there on something. And there it is. Again, with around about 15 seconds to go, somebody just entered the cap circle, which halted their capture progress with 19 seconds to go, which of course keeps getting worse as the Caracciolo keeps getting shot at. Note that the Azuma has been sunk, torpedoes from the Xianyang, who we haven't, I don't think, seen yet, but must be somewhere down to the south. So, with the Alsace about to move into the cap circle and back up what I think is the enemy Shiratsu, and with the Xianyang having torpedoed and sunk the Azuma not a million miles away from the current position of the friendly Saipan, who spent the first couple of minutes of this battle AFK, by the way, so, you know, that didn't help. He's back at the keyboard now, but, well, I mean, he's in the Saipan, so it's not really going to make that much difference. Dear Mr. Frodo there, because he knows the Xianyang's looking for him. It's the next logical thing to do after sinking the Azuma, warning the Saipan to get the hell out of there. And to the Saipan's credit, he is moving. He's moving towards where the Xianyang torpedoed the Azuma from. Oh look, torpedoes. Well, wow, would you look at that. Well, he has a fairly good idea of where those torpedoes came from, so his mission now is to sneak up on and kill that Xianyang. He's got torpedoes away against the Alsace, and they're looking pretty good, which is impressive for these torpedoes because they're crap. They're basically Benson torpedoes with a 9.2 kilometer range, but they're horribly slow. And his plan to sneak up on the Xianyang undetected has just gone pear-shaped thanks to that bloody Yorktown spotting him from the air again, which of course warns the Xianyang that he's coming. However, despite close-range destroyer-on-destroyer engagements like this, rarely giving you the opportunity to get all of your guns firing at the enemy destroyer, because that means you're sailing a predictable course and presenting the widest possible target for the enemy destroyer's torpedoes. That is not an issue in this fight because the Xianyang is Pan-Asian, and with deep water torpedoes it is incapable of torpedoing a destroyer, which means that even with all of the support and firepower from his allies in the world, there is absolutely no way the Xianyang was ever going to win that gunfight. Dear Mr. Frodo has a couple of bumps and scratches he's going to want to polish out, but he has at least survived, which is not something that you can say for either the Xianyang or the enemy Alsace. He unfortunately could not finish the Alsace off quickly enough to get himself a double strike there, but it was bloody close. Now somebody, let's face it, it's not going to be the Yorktown, so it's going to be the Shiratsu, is flipping that cap circle. But despite the cap circle in an arms race shrinking over time, dear Mr. Frodo didn't have to go too far south to deal with that Xianyang, so he's going to comfortably able to get in here and arrest the enemy team's capture progress without too many problems. Well, I'll say that. Here comes the Yorktown again. He is absolutely 100% going to be a problem. Oh, spotted. And it's surface spotted. Yeah, there he is. Now, both ships are on low health, but one of them is firing rapid reloading semi-armored piercing, so normally this would have been doomed for the Shiratsu. But dear Mr. Oh, wow, it is doomed for the Shiratsu. To be fair, I think he took a couple of hits from the Bayard as well. But what I was about to say before the whole issue became academic is that, well, I mean, you can quite clearly see he didn't just have to worry about the Shiratsu. In fact, I think it's probably safe to say that the Yorktown was the bigger problem. He had to try to take the Shiratsu on. Wait, are they too close? Yep, that one failed to arm. and with microseconds to go before that was the case. But can you imagine if the Shiratsu had gone on slightly higher
Much
health?
obliged,
Or if he
Commander.
was in a destroyer that didn't have semi-armor piercing shells? Or if the Bayard hadn't been able to shave off some of the Shiratsu's health with a little bit of assistance fire? This probably would have ended very, very differently, because that Yorktown has clearly had some experience of torpedoing destroyers, because one, he's got a raging hard-on for it, and two, he's pretty good at it. Of course, it is a Yorktown. It's a support carrier, so if he doesn't want to be seen, he doesn't have to. That's right, kids. Carriers get their own smoke screens now. Because, you know, clearly they needed the help. The Yorktown is in a tough spot, though, because now to win, he needs to kill both of them, which he might have been able to do if the Shiratsu had had slightly more health, or Frodo hadn't been in a Hughes and firing semi-armor piercing, or if the Bayard hadn't been on the ball with the support fire, because dear Mr. Frodo would be dead, and then they'd only have to kill the Bayard, and there would be a Shiratsu to help him do it. By contrast, the Bayard and dear Mr. Frodo can either take this cap, or they can just close in and kill the Yorktown. Either way wins it for them. And given the battering that the Bayard has taken from the Yorktown, and the proficiency that the Yorktown has demonstrated in hunting down and killing destroyers, I think closing in and killing the Yorktown is definitely the safer of the two options. Fortunately, his smoke doesn't last forever. He is on low health. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that the Bayard is the one that gets the kill, because dear Mr. Frodo already has a Kraken unleashed, and the Bayard could really use some good news because of what just happened. From hell's heart, the Yorktown spits at thee. So a victory there for dear Mr. Frodo 1 in the Tier 7 new American destroyer, the USS Hughes. This was a Tier 9 battle, and that's a Kraken Unleashed. And that's a Dreadnought award to go with the Kraken Unleashed. Dreadnought? And oh yeah, it's arms race. Health regeneration buff, that makes sense. And it wasn't just a Kraken Unleashed and a Dreadnought for a Tier 7 destroyer in a Tier 9 arms race battle. It was a 3000 base XP match for a Tier 7 destroyer in a Tier 9 arms race battle. So extremely well done there to dear Mr. Frodo. And thank you for sending this replay in, allowing me to showcase the strengths and weaknesses of this brand new, all-singing, all-dancing Tier 7 US Navy destroyer, even though it is basically just the USS Sims with a fancy new smokescreen and semi-armor piercing ammunition. Hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.